So good evening to everyone. Welcome to our talk today. And the title is Making Peace with the Past. And this program tonight will be shared by Sister Manda from the UK. So just a little bit about the topic. There comes a time in life when we need to let go. We need to let go of the past or relationship. Whatever it is, we have to learn how to move on in a graceful and dignified manner. So this is a wonderful opportunity for you to gain some powerful insights from Sister Manda. And I'd just like to share a little bit about Sister Manda. Sister Manda was born in 1960 from this continent of Africa, and she was born to Indian parents. Sister Manda began her journey and spiritual studies in London in 1981. So a vast amount of years of awesome experience. And I think as you will listen to Sister Manda, her own practical journey will actually assist each one to continue on their journey. And perhaps something that I'd like to share of my own personal experience with Sister Manda is she is very focused, clear-minded, and has a beautiful ability to read people and things in a very amazing way. You know, sometimes you might not understand something on the onset, but somehow Sister Manda has this ability to be able to see things in a, sort of in a whole picture. And so this is something I've always admired in her. And the other aspect is that her beautiful ability to translate. She often would translate for Daddy Janki, our former spiritual head of the organization, and the ease with which she did it. You know, sometimes you'd think, wow, I wonder how she does this. But it took a lot of effort, practice, and understanding Daddy to be able to articulate Daddy's thoughts and feelings to us in a very natural way. So a big thank you to Sister Manda for always being able to do that. A little bit more about Sister Manda. She's truly a cross-cultural person. Her experiences of both the Eastern and Western cultures and years of spiritual study aid in her building bridges between people of all backgrounds and cultures. She's fluent in English, Hindi, and Gujarati, and regularly translates at events of all sizes. From 1987 to 1993, she coordinated the administration for the building of the new International Center of the Brahma Kumaris Global Cooperation House in North London. And from 1993 to current, Sister Manda is the director of the Global Retreat Center in Oxford, one of the international value-based personal development residential retreat centers run by the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. And the center is one of the UK's most popular retreat venues, hosting numerous national and international seminars and training sessions. Each year, more than 10,000 people from all professions and walks of life come through its doors. As the coordinator of the center, Sister Manda was responsible for day-to-day management of the center, for event planning and mid to long-term strategy development. The Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University has over 8,000 branches in 120 countries and is the recipient of 7 Peace Messenger Awards from the United Nations. And being this month of September, the month of peace, I think it's most apt to have Sister Manda with us. And in recent years, Sister Manda has taken on the role of overseeing the activities of the Brahma Kumaris in the north and the south of England in the UK. And I think Sister Manda has visited many people, especially during the Zoom time in every corner of the world, I can say. And so we welcome you to South Africa, and we look forward to your beautiful sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Kalpana, for that very generous introduction. I'm seeing comments in the chat that people are not able to hear, or your volume was low. Is everybody able to hear me okay? I saw quite a few comments.
Yes, Joe, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, we
great.
can
We
hear,
can hear,
Yes, we
hear
can
you.
hear
Thank
you.
you.
Good.
it's perfect.
And in any case, I have a very loud voice. When I was little, I always used to, if in a room full of people, there were people talking, I would be picked out the most because my voice is distinct and it's also very loud. So, and there was a neighbor when I lived in India, used to say that I had swallowed a microphone. So I don't think you'll have trouble with my voice. So anyway, as I say, thank you, Sister Kalpana, for that very generous introduction. What can I say? I think whatever you do in life is not really that matters. It's what happens inside yourself and what it is that people experience in their interaction with us that's more important than anything else. And in recent times, more than ever before, it's been very clear to me that we can do so much physically, so many actions or service that are outward oriented that we can do, but unless we serve our own minds and our hearts and our thoughts and our feelings, then there is a big discord between what happens outside and what happens inside. And so my sense is that's something that one has to achieve most importantly. So today's topic, whenever I get given a topic to speak about, I always find it's something that I need to look at for my own self. And this one, making peace with the past, it's a very important one for all of us, and it's whether long distance past or short distance past, or a past of yesterday or a past of this morning. It's important to be able to stay clean inside ourselves, so that we can allow new things to emerge within our minds and our hearts. So let's just come together first of all and just be present in the room. I know that when you're on Zoom, it's very easy to be multitasking and doing things and listening or watching or whatever it might be with your camera off. But let's see if we can give ourselves the gift of this time of really being present. And I'm not saying that just to be able to hear the words, but perhaps to be able to give that time to ourselves in a very focused and a centered way, so that words and vibration and our intentions and everything can come together, and there can be a greater kind of advantage, and we ensure that we've used our time in a worthwhile way. So I'd like us to just come together vibrationally and energetically. It's amazing that Zoom has brought us together. What's the distance between here and South Africa, specifically Cape Town, or wherever it is that a majority of the people are from? Miles of distance. And yet being together in this way, in front of each other, distances fade away, and it's as if we're all sitting in one room together. So let's just sit and be together. Share this moment of time together. Allow ourselves to feel our heartbeat that can't be seen. It can be felt if you're very skilled, if you touch your heart. But can you see if you can feel your heartbeat without anything? Sense the pulsation of your heart. Because as you do that, you become present in this moment. We connect with ourselves truly, We're able to be present with all that is around us, as if we're able to make contact with something that can't be touched. Can't be seen. But can only be felt. And in this deep stillness, in this deep sense of a throbbing heart of our planet, of our nature and our world, you're able to allow, you're able to sense a presence, a grace, sense of dignity. It's not as a result of anything else, but just for what it is. It's in this presence of deep cleanliness, softness, and gentleness that you're able to appreciate the beauty of this moment, free from anything of the past, free from anything of anyone else. And free of anything external. And it's as if your life has become a blank canvas. But it's in this, on this blank canvas, that you can paint the most beautiful, most awe-inspiring image of yourself, of your future, and of your life. What does that image look like and feel like? What would you feel? Use one word. Whisper that one word to yourself. What is the image that you'd like to paint of your life on this opportunity that has offered itself to you, of this blank canvas? Because you're free. Free of the past. Free of anything that's not yours. Deep peace, gentleness, kindness, compassion. And what does that image look like? What is that face? That you anticipate would look like? Go back to that beginning of our journey, sensing your heartbeat, the pulsating of your heart. The heartbeat that gives life to everything. Not only you, not only this body, but your world. Om Shanti. Thank you. I'm sure you've all got your microphones off, but I still feel that all of us connecting in this way, I'm sure that all of you also created that same energy and vibration that I'm feeling right now. And in a sense, my feeling is that there's nothing left to say. When we in moments, we can go to that place of a blank canvas in our minds, in our heart. We begin to realize how much and how important it is to make peace with our past and keep moving on. It's interesting, but we all know that the law of nature, the law of life, is that everything is constantly moving and flowing and changing. Nothing ever remains the same. If it feels the same, then you can probably examine it materialistically, anything external, whether it is the same, but it is never the same. The only place it remains the same is in our own minds and in our own hearts, in our mindset, our attitudes, perhaps our perceptions. And when we carry that with ourselves, that's when we remain held. I didn't want to use the word stuck. We remain held in whatever it is in our past that holds us back. And so I feel there are some very basic principles of life that we need to remember, but also not just principles, but actually the flow and the energy of life is that everything is constantly moving. I lived in the retreat center for 25 years. And since it closed down for renovation, of course, we were not living in a group in that way, 30 of us living in a building together. And every weekend we would have retreats. Every weekend a different group would arrive. And of course, at the end of the weekend, that group would go. And then we would be preparing for the next group to come in the next few days. And one of the most powerful experiences I had during that time was that we never had the time to stay stuck in anything. Because, people were coming, we were there and present to be available for them, to prepare for them, to serve them, And so we were in the presence of those people, did what we had to, and then they left. No matter what happened between the time they arrived and the time they left, we couldn't hold on to it. We had to just, they've gone. Our mindsets that were there in their presence have gone. And then a new group is arriving. So there was this constant shift of energies that was taking place. We never had time to stay stuck or be held by anything. If a situation had occurred, even amongst the people that lived together, we didn't have time to make a story of it or get upset about it or worry about it, because we had to get on to the next thing all the time. And this was an amazing experience. And so there was constant sense of movement and a constant sense of freshness and newness coming every week, every time a new group came. And this was inside of us. If we held on to what happened last week, we couldn't. When we were preparing meals, we had to account for a different group of people, what they preferred, how well they ate or not, as the case may be. And so we had to rethink again everything. And in a sense, life is like that, isn't it? That constantly situations are changing, circumstances are changing. And if I keep remembering, hold on to what happened, then I can't be at peace. Firstly, I can't be at peace with my own self, and I can't be at peace with whatever it is that happened. And I liked the title, that being at peace, or, well, it says it's making peace, but I also interpret that as being at peace with something. When you are working to be at peace with something, it's not that you are expecting that situation or circumstance to change in the way that you want it to be, for you to be peaceful with it or at peace with it, but you are doing the work of being at peace with it, understanding it, holding it, and accepting it, so that in that process of acceptance, you understand and you know that it is what it is, it was what it was, but it's no longer that today. My feeling also has been that one of the key aspects of making peace with the past is that we have to understand that I can't expect, if I get caught up in blaming the external situations or a person, then I keep myself held by those people or that person. Whatever it is that they've done, that's one thing. But to be blaming someone for what they're doing or blaming someone for how I feel about a situation, it also means that I'm holding myself a victim of that person or their behavior. And so, recently I've really enjoyed reading, or I'm in the process of reading the book by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, interestingly enough. And it's not because I was going to do this talk, it's something that I was listening to another book, and in that that person mentioned this book of forgiveness, I think it's called. I'm not sure of the exact title, but it's the book that Archbishop Desmond Tutu has written with his daughter about forgiveness. And in order to make peace with our past, one of the primary qualities, a primary, not necessarily virtue, principle, if you like, a value, if you like, has to be the value of forgiveness. And what I liked, what he was saying, and it's when you are forgiving a situation or your past even. I'm kind of specifying a situation or a person, but whatever it is that's happened. And when you are forgiving, it's not a question of denying that it happened. It's not a question that it was wrong that it happened. It might be wrong, and it's caused me a lot of pain for what it was. But I can either be held by that pain, or I can allow myself to have the permission to release myself of that pain. And so the first aspect of our past has to be that I tell the story of what exactly it is happened. And it's so, in order to make peace with it, it's not that you suppress your past, or, to say, okay, it's okay, let go, move on. It takes only a second. It doesn't matter. It's not that. This happened, and this is the damage that it's caused. And where possible, I tell the story of it. And I choose to forgive for my own sake, for my own benefit, to release myself, to give myself the freedom to create this blank canvas, so that on this blank canvas, I can paint a picture that I choose to paint, whatever that picture might be. And it's an image that I can create for myself. And then also, as I tell my story, I can also recognize the hurt that it caused me, and admit and realize the hurt, because often we feel too delicate, too sensitive to speak about the hurt or own the hurt that has occurred. And so I find it's a very powerful method, that this is what I'm feeling. And something that I was recently experiencing was, and realizing after days of why is this happening, or days of feeling a sense of upset, or a sense of disappointment, or a sense of hurt even. And, because I've been thinking about all of these things for my own self, I realized that what I had to accept was that I'm experiencing grief. I'm experiencing the grief or the loss of something. And it's okay that this has happened. I, in a sense, instigated. I created the situation that I'm in right now, but that, and I created it knowing it, and deliberately I created the situation. And yet at the same time, I am feeling grief. I'm feeling the loss of what I did have and what I did experience, and that I'm no longer part of something. And that, and you know what? But when I realized that I can give myself the permission for this grief and this hurt, it was as if something was released from within myself. And that even though I might feel the grief and the pain, the loss, it was okay. It was okay, because it's for a short period of time, and that it's allowing me to go to a different phase in my life. I'm allowing something to die so that something else can be born. And I feel that making peace with our past is very much a similar process and journey, that I become held by it if I keep thinking about it over and over again. And then when I realize that this has happened, so sometimes it might be that I have to forgive my own self, that the choice that I made, and it's a good choice, it's a right choice, and something else will evolve, something else will be born as a result of this. And so first and foremost, I have to forgive my own self for taking the pain and the sorrow that I've taken until now, or the grief or the loss or whatever it is that I've taken until now. And then working towards making amends with that situation and saying, okay, let's move on. I move on, the situation moves on, the person moves on, and let's be friends again with whatever it was. And this is such an important aspect of our journey. And you know, the thing is that realizing that it's life is never a bed of roses. Nobody ever promised us a bed of roses either. Knowing that when situations occur, when you make mistakes, when failures happen, when conflicts happen, when obstacles come, these are the moments in which I have learned the most. And my experience also of letting go of the past is that when I've learned from whatever it is that has occurred, it's as if something snaps, something shifts inside of me, so that I make sure that the same situation doesn't occur again. This has been such an important, what is the lesson? You know, and it's about not kind of frantically looking for a lesson here and now, thinking, okay, what's the lesson? I must know the lesson right now. It might take a day, it might take a week, it might take a month, it might take a year, but I remain open to asking the question, what has been my learning in this situation? And just asking the question, I think, allows humility, allows this opening of the heart, and allows me to be restful, so that in that space of rest and comfort, an avenue opens up to show me what it is that I've learned. But if I'm constantly fighting, if I'm constantly arguing with what has happened, or blaming or accusing or wanting it to go away or wanting it to be other, or wanting someone else to come forward and apologize to me first, or admit their mistake or wrongdoing to me first, and then I'm willing to apologize. And this is something, or forgive, this is something that Desmond Tutu mentions in such a powerful way in that book, that if somebody comes and asks me for forgiveness, and I give and I forgive, there's nothing gracious about that. Nothing gracious about that. Nothing dignified about that. So they came and you gave, and that's okay. And he relates many, many stories of situations that occurred in South Africa during the apartheid, where so much happened, where people who had experienced so much pain and sorrow and suffering and torture and all of that are saying, we want to know who the perpetrators were so that we can forgive them. So my sense is that what is important is to be able to free ourselves every single day. And you know that every single day is a new beginning and a new opportunity. And I myself have a practice of meditation, and I may not have used it so much in the past, but I've increasingly begun to use this aspect that every single day when I have my early morning meditation, or in fact, before the morning meditation, at the end of the day, what is it that I'm letting go today? What is it that I'm releasing from myself? Every single day, I have the habit of writing a little journal even. And what is it that I learned today? And what is it that I failed at today that I can do different tomorrow? I can do better tomorrow. And then in the morning, when I sit for my meditation, firstly, I usually sit on my own, and then I incredibly appreciate the opportunity of sitting with a group of people meditating, because there's an atmosphere there, there's a vibration there, there's an energy there, where I allow myself to be exposed to spiritual wisdom and teachings in such a way that something new touches my mind and my heart and my intellect, so that I can say, this is what I've got to work with today. And actually what I always find, when that's something, every morning I get an opportunity to begin again. either from a quality of interaction that I have with someone, or something that I'm hearing in terms of my spiritual understanding and teaching that gives me a chance, gives me an opportunity to say, okay, swipe the slate clean today. And then also a practice that I think is very important is to say, well, okay, what do I want to do today? How do I want to perceive my day today? And when so many things happen in our lives, or when we are aiming to release ourselves from the past, it's also important to spend time in the company of people, or connecting to people who are nurturing, who provide me with nourishment, who provide me with good vibrations and good energy, who provide me with inspiration, and if not necessarily quality of dialogue or interaction in terms of conversations, but just being in their presence makes me look inside myself. And I think that a quality, in order to make peace with our past, that is also important, is staying in touch with ourselves, integrity with one's own self, and actually owning that everything that happens to me, the seed of everything external, is somehow lies inside my own self. And it's not necessarily overtly that I've done something, or I'm conscious of that I'm doing something, but I'm also living in a world this day and age that is full of pain and sorrow and suffering. When I connect with that sorrow and suffering, then that same emerges inside of me too. And so making peace with my pain, my sorrow, and my suffering also allows me the opportunity to recognize the sorrow that's outside of me, and somehow engage with it, somehow be at ease with it, and be comfortable with it. And comfortable with it in a sense that accepting that these occurrences are happening in our world today, and today it's happening to me, but how can I accept it and move on from it? And our administrative head, Dadi Prakashmani, many years ago, I had an opportunity to sit with her and have a conversation with her. And I'd seen her in action, running an organization as big as the Brahma Kumaris. It's not a small thing. And she was at our headquarters, Dadi Prakashmani. And I'd seen her addressing situations and circumstances that people were part of. And she had to tell them, she had to correct them, and she had to, point out. And while she was always incredibly loving, incredibly big-hearted in terms of giving permission to be to people to be who they are, I'd seen her correct people as well. And I'd also seen the situation whereby she had done with someone, and the next day that person came in front of her, and it was as if nothing had happened yesterday. That person had done nothing, as if she was meeting them with a clean slate, with so much love, so much compassion, so much wisdom and peace, if you like. And so I remember asking her this question: how do you do this? How, people do things, and you've got to make things happen. And how do you let go and not feel that you got to punish them, or you've got to let them know that it's not acceptable, or that you're upset with them, or you're angry with them? And she said very few sentences. She didn't go into long explanation. She said in a few sentences, she said, when someone's doing something wrong, they are trying to let go of it. They want to be free from it. And if I remind them again of what they did, how have I helped them? How have I helped them let go? In fact, what I'm doing is I'm reinforcing for them when they are trying to let go of their yesterday's behavior, whenever the behavior was. And so she said, whenever something happens for me, I always say, what is next? Or every scene that passes by, I say, what is next? What's the next scene that's come? And what is it that, how do I apply myself to this next scene? I'd seen her do this, and I'd seen Nadi Janki, that Kalpana Ben was talking about, where I spend a lot of time with her, and I'd seen her dealing with people in a way whereby it was as if yesterday didn't exist. When she was present with you, she was absolutely present with you, absolutely focused in her attention with you. But you move away, you've gone, and someone else has come in front of her. That's it. You're no longer there. And it's not hurtful or anything like that. That's not the intention. But when you're there, you're completely focused and present. But when you move, when the next person comes along, next person is the focus of her attention. And these are some very simple and basic behaviors, if you like. And yet these are very powerful lessons that we learn. And so I like this notion, this idea that came up in the meditation, and I hadn't planned it actually. Can you make the canvas of your mind and your heart a blank canvas every single day? And so, making peace with the past, it's not just a piece of 5 years, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but actually the past of 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, past of this morning, past of yesterday. One of the most powerful spiritual law, in fact, is that whatever happens, once that moment is gone, when that passes, it's finished. Something else is going to come. And if I hold on to that past, then I'm the one who is polluting my own mind. I'm the one who's polluting this present moment. And so the important thing is to keep my mind and my heart so clean. And it's a practice. I don't want to make it sound like I'm doing it every single day, but I'm aware of this practice. It's not that I'm always successful at it either. When something deeply hurts me, then I have to go through the process that I'm also telling you about. Sometimes those deep hurts last for a long time. And sometimes, like we had this conversation this morning, in fact, and somebody was saying that knowing the philosophy of karma is a useful thing, that if I'm taking sorrow from something today, or even I took sorrow from something yesterday, I must have contributed to someone and caused them sorrow. So yeah, there are times when it works, especially when you think that you haven't taken part in that. When you see that, well, okay, they're giving me pain in this way, so you kind of accept that you're the one, who've got to change. But sometimes when you feel you're wrong done by, or it was you've been deceived, or you've been cheated, or you've been whatever, when any of that happens, that does take time. But to hold your heart, to hold yourself with love, with compassion, knowing that these are situations of life that do occur. But how do I grow? How do I learn? How do I become strong with these aspects that actually next time I don't allow myself to be hurt? Next time I learn my lesson. And these are some of the powerful practices that I think we have to keep on a daily basis, every single day, so that you don't accumulate sorrow. You don't build sorrow and make your heart heavy. And I think that what is also important, an analogy that I love a lot, is that, life is a flow. Everything is always moving. But if you keep memories, if you keep in your mind memories that are painful, hurtful, and you keep speaking about them, you keep thinking about them, your heart becomes filled with the energy of those memories. When people come in front of you, it's the same old record that's played, and then people don't want to come and talk to you. But you have people who are light and easy and laughing, always, joyful and always moving on. You want to go and talk to them even when you're feeling miserable, because you know that they'll make you feel good for a while, even that they'll make you forget your pain and your sorrow. And so what is my heart? Is my heart filled with stagnant waters that filled with a lot of rubbish that people have thrown at it and it's got bad odor there? Or is my heart like flowing river that's moving and water is clean and sparkling and cooling? So I like this image of drawing this painting on this blank canvas of my mind, that I can draw the image of myself being light, being easy, being free, wanting to move on and be able to be useful to other people, to help them let go of their past and sorrow. So I'll stop here to invite any thoughts or questions or comments that someone might have. These things are, we can talk about this all night, but these are just some triggers that help us.
Thank you, Sister Manda. I think many of the things that you shared, a take-home point for me is really forgiving the self, because I think so often that a lack of acceptance just makes one stop and not grow. And so I think I'm taking, this point of really accepting, whatever has happened in the past and moving forward with some new learning from that situation. And I loved also this image of the blank canvas, that I can create whatever I would like and create something of great enjoyment and beauty for myself. I'm just going to check in the chat if anybody has put any questions.
No, I don't think anybody has yet.
But like Sister Manda said, please, if anybody does have any questions, you're most welcome to put them in the chat and we can ask Sister Manda. But I think she's done an awesome job of demystifying, this whole aspect of, letting the past not hold one back. And I think what you also shared about forgiveness, because I think that is a big thing and very relevant, I think, not only for South Africa, but I think for people, because that lack of, or that ability to forgive just imprisons you. And so as you let go and forgive, and like you said, it's actually, you're not doing somebody else a favor, but you're helping yourself. And so I think that's a very valuable tool.
So somebody's just posted a question to me directly, that the challenge that people experience is when they're confronted with righteous anger, when you see something that is unjust. It's a very good question, a very interesting question. And again, we were talking about this today when in our morning teaching, this aspect of interfering came up, that how do I find myself interfering in situations and circumstances that occur? And I was relating my story that I had seen two people in conflict with each other, and I was kind of in this righteous indignation that, well, this person who's more older and supposedly wiser is treating someone bad, and this is not fair and this is not right. And I remember asking Daddy Janki about this, and she didn't know the story. She didn't know what I was referring to because I didn't tell her what I was thinking about. And it was very interesting. She said to me, if you really want to help the situation of this thing that you're thinking is unjust, give the vibrations of peace. Give your vibration of peace, give your vibration of love, and hold the space for them so that something becomes touched and they're able to change their situation. But if you go on this crusade, whether it's anger or whether it's however that, why are you doing this? It's righteous indignation. And so you kind of interfere in their process of understanding, in their process of learning to understand each other and learning to work with each other. And so really, anger really doesn't achieve anything. If anything, even if you're right, if you do it with anger, then there'll be pushback. It's this lesson that we were having this morning about interference, not to interfere. And generally when we interfere, we were talking about interference and intervening. You can intervene when your intention is right, when your vibration is of love and kindness and generosity and openness, it's making peace with grace and dignity. When there is that, then there won't be anger. You will be able to bring a positive energy to a situation of that is unjust. But if you get into this anger, there'll just be pushback, and you'll either end up taking sides, or you will not be able to help the two resolve the situation.
Sister Manda, there's one question. What do you do when family members don't talk to each other? An example is two brothers not talking to each other.
Well, one person has to decide that I've got to make this work. One person has to decide that I'm going to go and speak to this person, to speak to my brother. They are my brother after all. There was a story that I heard recently about two brothers not getting on with each other, and one created like a division between each other in their physical spaces that so that they would never go to the other side. So the other brother built a bridge to be able to go on the other side and talk to his brother. So I think it's about, again, letting go. And life is too short to hang on to grudges and hang on to pain and sorrow, or perceived pain and sorrow that you think that someone's caused you. And so it's more important to be reaching out and loving, and be surrounded by harmony than conflict and anger. And it takes courage. It takes courage. It takes humility. It takes letting go of this righteous indignation.
Thank you, Sister Manda. There's also another question. Thank you very much. I'm a perfectionist and I don't easily forgive myself. I will practice the daily cleaning of the mind and heart. I believe it will help me forgive others. And then I think that's a comment, sorry. And then a question. Can you share some instance or story from any seniors, how they made peace with the past, perhaps from Daddy or Gentibin, or even any senior brother, or even any senior you have come across, especially when someone is divorced? It's very difficult to forget the past.
Well, I think that if a situation is difficult, you have to stop saying that it's difficult. Because when we say that it's difficult, then we are putting an obstacle ourselves in front of ourselves. And so it's like, I can't cross that barrier. But, I already shared the stories about the daddies, that how for them, they were completely present in the moment. Actually, I think I was in South Africa. I had come with Daddy Janki to South Africa. And I think it was in Durban, and perhaps one of you will remember, there was a big auditorium and there were programs of 5,000 people or something like that. And I think it was that event that I'm remembering, whereby there's an audience waiting for Daddy for thousands of people, and there was a phone call that came, and Daddy sat at the back of the stage, attending to that phone call with so much. Obviously, somebody was in a difficult situation, attending to that phone call with so much love and giving absolute attention to that person for however long, few minutes before she went on the stage. She didn't get all flustered and worried about, well, they shouldn't be talking to me and I can't take that phone call right now. I've got an audience of 5,000 waiting for me. And I think this is part of that, whereby we find ourselves in situations and we kind of make them very big and hold them in our hearts so closely. Whereas what is important is that we recognize that I have to be clean. I have to be moving on in the sense. And when I move on, the other person moves on. They are willing to let go. For me, a situation happened today, actually, that a specific individual, some kind of situation has occurred whereby, there is tension between us. And part of me wants to let go. Part of me wants to kind of release myself of this tension. That person rang me today and they said to me, I'm coming by and can I do this for you? And I had to stop. I kind of stopped breathing for a second. And I thought, I actually didn't need them to do what they were asking me if they could do that for me. I didn't really need them to do it. But I said, okay, come and do it for me. I gave them permission. And that was a big shift for me. And I think it took courage on their part to ask me to do something for me, because they might have thought that I will reject because of this tension. But I agreed, and actually it was just an hour and a half before this talk, and I was a little bit concerned. I thought, well, if they come and we get into a conversation, I've got to be ready for this talk. But I said, it doesn't matter. Let's just see how things pan out. But something went wrong for them. They had to call me back and say, I'm really sorry, I won't be able to come and do this for you today, but I'll come in the next couple of days because of X, Y, and Z. So we both crossed something. For me, I think it was a big thing as well. And for me, it had built up. But when you ask me about the daddies never allowed things to build up. The moment that scene changed, they forgot. They moved on. They moved on to the next important scene, and that was it.
Thank you, Mandabin. I think we've got 2 more questions, and then
we are nearly close to 7. You have time, or there's meditation as well. But from my side, it's fine.
Okay, let me read them. So, Sister, can you please share how the power of withdrawal can successfully be applied in the case of when one experiences rejection and negative attitudes? I'll just read the next one. Maybe, is that okay? Or you don't want to do one at a time?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Sister. With this, acceptance and forgiveness is definitely for the person hurting because it heals. But these couple of months, I've had a situation what resulted in losing loved ones. At the same time, it gets tough when there is so much acceptance and forgiveness for one person. And there was another question where somebody said, she can't understand what it means where people say, you forgive, but you can't forget.
So the first question quickly, just briefly, was just one word.
Withdrawal, the power of withdrawal. And then because the person has to experience so many personal, experiences and rejection and negative attitudes?
I think that for both the situations, when whether it's power of withdrawal, or whether it's power to merge, or whether it's power to tolerance, actually you can apply any one of the powers in these situations. And it's not about saying, okay, which power do I use right now? But I think it's power to merge, power to just I've experienced it. I have experienced, and generally my nature is to, okay, doesn't matter, forget it, move on, let's go. But I also found that when I kept doing that, I didn't learn the lesson that I needed to learn. So I had to get to a point where when something happened, hang on a minute, what's gone on just there that it went wrong? So I have to unpack it. And what is my part in that? And so I have to say, okay, I allowed that to happen, and that's why this happened. And so now I've got to say, this is my lesson. My lesson is to look at myself, look at the situation, and learn my own lesson. So I think the power to merge is not just ignoring it and forgetting it, it's seeing it, learning the lesson, and moving on, knowing that it causes me sorrow. And this other question also about, what's the other question? It was about forgiving but not forgetting. I think I can identify with that, where I remember a few years ago, someone said something to me really, really hurtful. And it was someone whom I have a lot of respect for. And someone I would look up to, someone who'd be, in some ways, my spiritual mentor, if you like, my spiritual teacher. And they said something so hurtful to me. They apologized afterwards, but the fact that it came out of their mouth was really shocking for me. But I decided that I have to let go. I have to forgive that person, for me to be able to reconnect with them as my teacher, my senior teacher, and my senior sister, or whatever. But it's not something that I forget. I don't forget. I do remember it. And when I remember it, I don't take sorrow from it. But it's not that my memory gets wiped clean. Of course it's not. It happened now. I heard it with my own ears. And I can verbatimly repeat the one sentence. That's all it took, one sentence. And so I didn't, I don't forget it, but I don't hold it against them, because it's not useful to me. It's not useful for our relationship. It's not useful for my future contribution in service, actually. That's why I choose to forgive. I forgive, but I remember, I don't sit there remembering chanting the mantra of what they said, because what they said was not true. They were acting on the basis of what other people have told them. And I exactly know what somebody might have said and who might have said what, but it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Sister Manda. I think many precious points that you've shared will leave us working on ourselves and keeping ourselves light. So perhaps just to end, so first, a very big thank you, heartfelt thanks from each one of us who are listening and participating in this session today. But perhaps you could just close with a bit of meditation and lead us. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Sitting comfortably and relaxed. I become conscious of my breath and the pulsating nature of my breath. And as I engage in that, my mind becomes free from all distractions. And my attention is held inside my own self. And it's as if energy moves through my being, my mind, my heart, and the whole of my body. And the breath gives life to this physical body, which is called Pran. And I, the soul, the spirit, is also Pran, this living being, this living energy. And with this, I see the harmony that exists between I, the spiritual energy, this pulsating energy of life and breath. And as I become conscious of this, I become aware of the same pulsating rhythm of the world around me and nature around me. When I realize that the energy and the vibration that I create resonate with the world around me, it's as if there is no separation between I and this world. And it's in this space, in this energy, that I feel the presence. It's this gentle presence of the divine energy of myself, of nature, and the supreme divinity of God. And I realize that I am much greater and much bigger than I see myself. In the company of God, I become as magnanimous, as gracious, as generous, and as beautiful as God. This is the most unconditional state of being. Always present, always available, always clean. When I become so clean with the influence of God, the presence of God, the energy of God, I allow myself to create an image of myself, of beauty, of sparkle, of peace and truth. This is who I truly am. Like this beautiful sunset, vastness of space, filled by the presence of the sun of light, the sun of warmth, and the sun of generosity. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Manda, and a big thank you from everyone. So even on the chat, many people have shared their thanks and appreciation. And we hope to invite you again sometime soon. And when physical travel is allowed, perhaps you can even grace us with your physical presence. So
I'm
thank
sure.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening. Om
Thank
Shanti.
you. Om Shanti. Bye-bye.
Bye.